Welcome back here to the ASN Sports Talk here on 91.7 WEEM. I'm Ryan Davis, and joining me is Zion Palmieri and Dawson Perrell. So we're going to go over, last night we had our fantasy draft for the Weem sports staff. So we're going to go over some of the rounds, some of the picks, see if there's anything big. So starting off, Aiden Wilson had the first pick. He went with Justin Jefferson. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say there. It was pretty.
Yeah. I think it's pretty clear. I've only been in like maybe one mock draft where Justin Jefferson hasn't gone at number one. I think he is just the clear answer. We talked about in his last show, the reason I like Justin Jefferson so much is unlike all these other, I guess every other player in the draft, you could say, I just don't see any red flags for Justin Jefferson. I don't see anything that would even make me think not to take him. I guess you can maybe say Kirk Cousins is getting older, but that's a reach, and Kirk Cousins is still so consistent of a quarterback that he's not going to affect Justin Jefferson as a wide receiver at all.
Dalvin Cook's gone.
That's true. Yeah, it's another thing. It's getting
Adam
even better.
Thielen's gone.
Yeah,
it's
I mean, you got
better.
Jordan Addison, their new rookie, but that should be really even less of a momentum stopper than Adam Thielen.
Yeah, but when it comes to like that play that you really need us to score or anything, it's going to come down to Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just route running is insane and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Me, I have the second pick. I went with Jamar Chase. I mean, I think it's just a good second pick. I mean, Jamar Chase, they have a lot of good wide receivers, but I mean, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase did play together in college.
And I kind of feel bad for you because I don't like having the second pick. I just feel like there's so many ways you can take it.
Yeah.
Like you can argue CMC, you can argue Austin Eckler, you can argue Jamar Chase. I see people arguing Travis Kelce, which I mean might be a bit of a reach, but I see Jamar Chase in that. I feel like that was the right pick again, that Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase connection. I mean, it's already legendary, and it's only going to get better. Last year, Jamar Chase missed a couple games. I guess you might be able to say that there is an injury possibility there, but when playing fantasy football, it's the best strategy to not even worry about injuries because there's no way you can predict it. Yes, some players are more injury prone, some positions are more injury prone, but I think at the end of the day, you can't stop that. Have that stop you from taking a player. Just because they're injury prone, don't do that because then you're going to be. You could say that about every player in the draft, realistically.
I like the pick. I mean, just like you said, I think I would have went Christian McCaffrey. I don't know. That's a stacked Niners team. I mean, can't complain. It's whatever.
Yeah, I saw both you guys went with running backs on your first pick. Dawson, you went with Christian McCaffrey, and Zion, you went Saquon Barkley. I think personally for me, I don't think I've ever went with a running back on the first round just because of injuries. I mean, Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. There's been so many years that he's been injured.
I never have until this year.
Really?
And wide receiver, first three picks are wide receiver, and then two running backs go. I need to take a running back. Yeah. So I just took Barkley.
See, I feel like what's been interesting this year in fantasy, and more specifically than any other year, I mean, you look back to like the past, like even just 2 years ago, it's every single year there's like a running back at that first. Last year was Jonathan Taylor, right? Jonathan Taylor was always being taken at the 101. And like I feel like ever since I started playing, it's almost always the consensus first pick in the draft is a running back. But I can tell why you would avoid that. And I think this year it's a good idea to avoid that if you have the 101, just because there's much higher of a risk. And on top of that, you see all these holdouts from these running backs. I mean, everyone is affected by that, no matter if you have a long-term deal or not, realistically, because we've seen running backs with long-term deals still hold out. So I went with CMC just because I feel like at the fourth pick, I told myself if CMC drops to me, I'm taking him, and I went with that. I think it's just too much of an upside. I mean, he has a great offensive line with Trent Williams on that tackle spot. He has I think there are a lot of options on that 49ers offense, a bit too much that could hinder his productivity and his share of the carries and of the receptions. But in a PPR league, I mean, CMC, man, on the Panthers, it was still so unbelievable in his prime when he was healthy, averaging 20, 30 points a week as a running back, which is wild. So hoping he's back to that, and most of all, hoping he stays healthy.
So we're going to switch to round 2 now. So for my pick, I had Josh Jacobs. I was thinking I had the second pick, so had the second to last pick this time. I mean, not a whole lot of people, like big people that you could pick. Didn't really want to pick a quarterback that early. So it's like Josh Jacobs, I feel like he had a great season last year.
He led rushing. He was the lead rusher.
I feel like, I mean, yes, you have Jimmy Garoppolo now, Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Did they have Jacoby Myers last year?
No, he was a Patriot. He's a Raider now.
Yeah, Jacoby Myers now. Maybe not getting as many.
I'm not worried about him.
I think what you should be worried about is the holdout.
Yes.
Of course, over the offseason, he flew away from training camp. He said, I ain't playing until I get a new contract, which I was just talking about with the running back contract problems. But it looks like he is leaning towards that he is going to play. But then again, I mean, it's always like it's risky. Like that's why this year's draft with running backs is just so difficult because like Jonathan Taylor, like do you go for Jonathan Taylor? There's a bunch of questions. I think I saw today that Miami called up. The Raiders said, hey, are you still looking for trades? But then the Raiders said, nope, we're not. We're sticking with them. So I think that is a good thing for you. I think that's saying that, okay, things are settling down and it looks like Josh Jacobs will play. And if he is even close to how he was last year, you might have had the steal of the draft. I mean, having that guy, like you just look at his stats last year and then you tell me that he went to the back end of the second round, that's pretty good. And he should be very good. I mean, I think he could go down a bit because Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback, because I would almost rather have a Derek Carr. I mean, then again, it's not too big of a difference. So great pick, I would say.
Yeah, and I saw. Oh, what were you going to say, Zion?
I was just going to add on to that. I think that is the steal of the draft so far. In another league, I took him. I think it was either at the end of the second or very start of the first because I just like that. But as you said, I just searched Josh Jacobs because I wanted to see what his last contract was. And it's Dolphins inquiring about trading for Josh Jacobs. And I did not even think of that.
Yeah, but they said no. Raiders was like, we're not even going to give you the chance, which again, I think is a good thing for Josh Jacobs and the Raiders. It looks like they're getting.
That's why I took Barkley.
Yeah.
He just signed
the
franchise tag and he's going into a contract year, right?
Quick thing. I think it's not. It's a 1-year deal. It's like pretty much the exact same thing as a franchise tag. I hate to do that to you, Zion, but that's why I was confused because apparently like he was like, I don't want to sign a franchise tag, but then he signs a 1-year deal that's basically a franchise tag. Like that's what confused me. And then on top of that, your franchise tag is still available next year. So I don't understand that, but I'm pretty sure I might be wrong.
Why would you do that as a running back?
I don't know.
Weird.
I don't know. I still am a bit confused about that, but I'll go ahead and transition. We were talking about the Raiders. My second round pick was Devontae Adams. I had the 5th pick the 4th technically. You know, I was in the middle of the draft, but it says the 5 because uneven. But anyways, Devontae Adams, I think age is a problem and the quarterback is the problem. Those are my only 2 red flags for Adams, but man, he's so good. I mean, I think raw ability, he's still up there in the wide receivers, if not second, just behind Justin Jefferson, just a raw ability, maybe behind Tyreek Hill. I mean, route running is insane. And again, it worries me. And I think the reason he fell is because he's getting to that age and Jimmy Garoppolo, oof, man, that could end poorly. It wouldn't surprise me if Jimmy Garoppolo is benched by the middle of the year for whoever, maybe Aiden O'Connell, the rookie out of Purdue, which it's tough to say because Aiden O'Connell heading into this year, definitely I wouldn't think he'd getting any playing time. But of recent news, Aiden O'Connell or Jimmy Garoppolo, he barely passed the physical. Like he barely even qualified to be on the roster.
Did
like
not hear that.
Yeah.
That's
There was a
crazy.
bunch of news of like, is this guy even going to be eligible to be on an NFL team? Like he's not too good in shape, and I don't know exactly what was holding him back from passing it, but I remember hearing about that. So I'm not mad with the pick. I think Devontae Adams is going to be good, but you know, I would love Nick Chubb. I was kind of mad because the pick before me, Braden Folk, just slipped Nick Chubb, and I love Nick Chubb in the second round. I love pairing him up with CMC, but again, I'm not mad, and I think he was the best player on the board at the time.
I took Stephon Diggs. So first round, I had the 7th, which means I had the 2nd in the second round. And Stephon Diggs was just like I took a running back first round. Stephon Diggs is just too easy not to. I hate that as a Patriots fan, but he's there. I'm gonna take him. I think I had him last year. Yeah, I did, and he got me so many points. It was crazy. He's got Josh Allen. He's the number 1 target, and maybe he talked about. Well, there's been talks about if he wants to leave Buffalo or not. I know he said he doesn't want to, but I don't know if I believe that.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't think you will.
I think Josh Allen and him, I mean, I always thought of them as like they were just like famous for their chemistry. Like I remember last year everyone was saying like they have the best chemistry and like they had a couple clips where it was like so wholesome between them two. So I thought he loved it there, but you never know.
Didn't
like you
they,
only know
like,
so much.
Fight towards not fight, but like get in a bunch of arguments.
There's
towards the end of the
always
season.
stuff like that, and that's football, right? Like
Yeah,
you saw over the
it's-
Chiefs training camp, Travis Kelce, like he punched like 4 different players over like a span of a week in training camp.
Probably just heat of the moment.
Yeah, it's just heat of the moment, and like I feel like that's just football, right? And you can still love the guys to death and get in arguments with them because it's football and it's going to be rough. I mean, I'm sure even here in the high school level, Pendleton, those guys out there practicing. I mean, they're not practicing today; it's really hot, but
Yeah.
when they practice, I'm sure they get in arguments. I'm sure they get into fights, but then once they get out of practice, they're best friends, and that's just football, right?
Yeah, now and then going into round 3, this is where a lot of the quarterbacks are being taken. Me personally, I got Josh Allen. I think is what the best pick on the board because Patrick Mahomes was actually the first in round 3. I mean, Josh Allen could throw the ball a mile.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's insane on how far he could throw it. It's just like Patrick Mahomes, not as mobile, but I mean the size. He can get a few rushing yards.
I wouldn't say he's more mobile, but I think he's a better running quarterback just because of his size. He might not be as fast, but I mean, he's 6'5"?
He's gonna get those like
6'6".
extra yards at the end of the carry.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
by brute force.
Yeah, he's a big boy. First off, I'd like to say thank you for drafting back-to-back quarterbacks because I thought after my second round pick, I'm like, oh, I'd love Garrett Wilson. I'm like, there's no way I'm getting him in the third, right? There's 6 more picks, and I just drafted Devontae Adams. Garrett Wilson is going. His ADP, average draft position, for anyone wondering, is like in like the mid-second round. And I looked away from my phone. I was playing Madden while we were drafting.
I was playing Fortnite with
And I looked back on my phone, and I was like, Garrett Wilson, there's no way. I picked him instantly. It was like a 2-second pick. So, yes, I understand the logic in picking back-to-back quarterbacks, but Josh Allen, I think, is a reach enough. I think Patrick Mahomes, I mean, you just look at the tiers of quarterbacks, right? You got Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, maybe some other guys, and then Patrick Mahomes is his own tier. Like, I understand taking Patrick Mahomes in the 3rd, 4th round. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, I think, is a reach. I think I'd rather have Garrett Wilson, especially in an 8-team league. Now, looking back on my draft, I might regret that because right now Dak Prescott's my starting quarterback. So, yeah, it's rough. But I'd say at the time, I was thinking I can wait till the 8th round or I can wait till the 9th, 10th round and get Trevor Lawrence because it's an 8-team league. And
Pretty sure he's on waivers.
No, he's not. Oh, trust me. If he was on waiver, he'd be picked up because people were taking backups pretty early. So it kind of gypped me. But again, Garrett Wilson, back on him. I love him. He was my 3rd round pick. I think Aaron Rodgers is the type of quarterback, and his history is like once he finds his target, he just throws and throws and throws the ball to him like he's the guy. And like everyone else gets their chances, but like you look at like Devontae Adams, like he just had crazy. And I feel like, yes, Devontae Adams is such a good player, but Aaron Rodgers is so much of his success. And I'm hoping the same thing works out with Garrett Wilson, where it's just batters him up, peppers him every single play. Garrett Wilson's getting the ball.
I'm really hoping that's Randall Cobb because he's now a Jet now.
Oh
and
man,
I want those
that
targets
I mean,
away
yeah,
from Garrett Wilson.
that would be fun to see them back at it. But
Well, I want
guess
that
my
as a
fantasy
Patriots
team.
fan and now as a fantasy manager.
Yeah.
So I took so quarterbacks flying off the board. I don't like that already. No shade to anyone, but I think I would have taken Jalen Hurts. Josh Allen threw like 14 picks last season.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, he was my quarterback last season. And what I really noticed about him is consistently 25 points, 30 points.
It just never has a game below 20.
Yeah, it was really nice. And all these quarterbacks are flying, so I was like, I have to take Lamar. I had him in another league. Only thing I'm worried about is injuries, but you said that before. I can't really think about that. I mean, that's my pick.
Yeah. One thing I want to say about Lamar is I love it. I mean, I think if Lamar stays healthy, in a world where Lamar stays healthy, he can be the second best quarterback. I don't say first because I think Patrick Mahomes is a lock to be the best quarterback in the league, but I think he could be the second. I mean, he's got options for the first time and maybe ever in his career with OBJ, who I'm hoping can be back to OBJ on the Giants and even the Browns. I think he gets overhated. This is a side topic, but I think his time on the Browns gets overhated. He had a good, okay career with the Browns. Maybe not, with the Rams, only played a couple games, but I guess that Super Bowl he looked good before he tore his ACL. But again, I like the pick.
He's doing well in that Super Bowl.
Yeah, he was probably on track to win MVP, a Super Bowl MVP that is. But Lamar, I like it, but again, that's a bit too high for quarterbacks for my liking. I'm not the type of guy who's taking a high quarterback, and maybe that's the reason I've never won fantasy, never won my family league, which is much more competitive in my life. So maybe I should start.
Oh, sorry.
No, you can go ahead and go.
I said how I look at it is just like I said, Patrick Mahomes is just consistent points. So I'm just gonna get my quarterback now and then have it bite me in the butt later. I don't
Yeah,
know.
for my reason of picking a quarterback so early, just because what I think who gets the most points is the quarterback.
Yeah,
The
I see that.
25
Mhm.
something points a game. That could be a changer in the middle of the game, the matchup.
Yep.
I mean, that's my thing, but I'd see what you think about wide receivers because you have the entire other team, not just the quarterback's your main thing.
Now, the thing that draws me away to counter that is almost saying that quarterbacks and tight ends are what people call onesie positions in fantasy football, which a onesie position is kind of slang for saying you only need one guy. For a quarterback, you only need one guy, and for a tight end, you only need one guy. And then, I mean, you can even have no quarterbacks, no tight ends on your bench, which is what I have right now, and what most people have. Like, it's not uncommon to see no quarterbacks and no tight ends on the bench. So I think a lot of fantasy football is depth. Like a lot of it is having depth because injuries are going to happen bye weeks, weeks where a player is just not playing good. So if you have depth, you're much more likely to win. So that's why I avoid quarterbacks because you only need one of them. And say, I mean, in an 8-person league, surely one of those guys in waiver wires, not on a person's roster, one of those guys is going to have a breakout year and is going to have a great season. I can pick them up and then they could be my quarterback. So that's why I don't go with a quarterback very high in these 8-team leagues position. But if you want to go into round 4, keep this train rolling.
Yeah, so for round 4, I had DK Metcalf, but one thing I really want to talk about is Braden Folk actually picked Calvin Ridley in the middle of the round. That was a
wow. I didn't even see that.
I'm questioning
Ridley
I'm questioning
before
about
Olave.
that. Yeah, I'm questioning
Oof.
that. Not playing all year last year. It's just like
Yeah.
OBJ.
Yep.
I don't know how good he's going to be, but Trevor Lawrence is a great quarterback.
Yeah.
And I mean, got a young team. I feel like Calvin Ridley could do good, but I wouldn't stretch it to round 4.
I've seen clips of Ridley in like training camp, and he looks good. And I feel like I'm high on Ridley, but not 4th round. He took him over like Mark Andrews.
Mhm.
Like that's you said onesie positions. That's like get your Mark.
Yeah,
Andrews,
that's like
get your
your guy.
Kelsey, and that is your rock of your team. And take Calvin Ridley over that is
Yeah.
mm.
I see where he went there, and I think I like the philosophy when it comes to in fantasy football, you got to take reaches. And if you like your guy, go out there and get your guy, even if you have to reach for him. That's how you win fantasy leagues. But yeah, this specific scenario, I'm not sure about. I mean, right after Waddle, like right before Olave, I think Olave is going to have a better season. And on top of that, like Ridley, you still got some competition in that wide receiver room. I mean, not much. What's his name? Christian Kirk. Kirk.
Ooh, they paid him a giant.
Yeah,
deal.
yeah. He's gotten big money, and he's a good player. I don't know if he's gonna. I mean, Ridley, I think is gonna be the main guy in Jacksonville, but. Yeah. Anyways, my second pick, moving on here, the pick right after I was just mentioning Olave. New Orleans, of course, I'm a Saints fan. You see by my shirt to the audience, but I think Chris Olave had a phenomenal rookie year. I am still just in so disbelief that he didn't even get a contention for offensive rookie of the year, which is criminal. But because if he missed one game of the season. Garrett Wilson played all games. He was behind Garrett Wilson by, I think, 1 touchdown and like 100 yards or even like 50 yards. If Chris Olave plays that one game, he's winning offensive rookie of the year. He will most likely get a touchdown. Maybe that's iffy, but he's going to get 50 yards in the game he missed. So I think if Chris Olave plays that game, he's offensive rookie of the year and he's going as high as Garrett Wilson. Of course, Derek Carr, the new quarterback, I think that's an upgrade from last year. Dalton had a good year, but I think Carr is considered the better quarterback. And yes, Michael Thomas is coming back, and oh man, Michael Thomas is the tough player to cover. I got some bias towards him, but it's always risky. So I think say Michael Thomas stays healthy, some target share could be taken away from Chris Olave, but if he gets injured, which is honestly like a 50% chance, or even not, I think Chris Olave will be a great receiver in New Orleans. And for my flex, since I already have Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, I love that. And not necessarily my flex. I mean, he can even be rocking my bench. I got some pretty running backs that I'm excited about too.
Speaking of running backs, my pick in this round was Joe Mixon. So I already had Saquon and my wide receiver Stephon Diggs, and wide receivers were just flying off the board. And when they do that, I normally stay away from running backs completely. But but wide receivers were just flying off the board. So, I mean, I have to get my 1 and 2 Saquon and Joe Mixon, and he's been pretty consistent in the past couple years, especially with the Bengals just getting better and better as a team. So I like the pick, but
I think the only thing I'd say with that is in my opinion, there are better options. Najee Harris, you can consider. Travis Etienne, another guy you can consider. He had a pretty good year last year, and he's still pretty young. And then maybe even Aaron Jones, who I picked up later, I think can be at the case above Joe Mixon. So I think, yes, at that spot, it's not horrible, and there's a good chance he is. I mean, what was he the player last year that had like a 50-point game? I remember he had like 3 touchdowns, like 200 yards. It was a crazy game.
Yeah.
Against the Saints or something like that?
Oh, I hope not. I don't think so. Maybe, because we did play him last year, so you might be right. But anyways, not a horrible pick, but I think there's just better options there for you.
I was thinking about Waddle, but in my eyes was like there's a starter and he's second behind Tyreek Hill. I'm just gonna take.
We were just talking about that before the class. That's something that I kind of stay away from as wide receiver 2s, but Waddle's still crazy good.
I really want Waddle if I'm having a wide receiver 2 on my starting lineup.
Oh yeah, if any wide receiver 2, it's Waddle.
Yeah, I think Waddle. I think is just a great wide receiver. I think he was close to Jerry Rice's reception.
Probably for you mean for a young player or just reception
like
straight
rookie.
up? Oh, I'm sure.
I think he was one reception off of beating the record.
Crazy good.
That makes sense because they're just going to double team Tyreek Hill, and Waddle's a pretty
exactly.
good guy. They're just going to leave him open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then going into round 5, my pick, I had Travis Etienne. I had one running back, Josh Jacobs. I thought really needed to get another running back. Najee Harris went off the board right before.
Yeah.
But, Travis Etienne, I don't think he had didn't have an outstanding year last year, but
outstanding is, I think he averaged like 12 points a game. So I'd say great. Maybe not outstanding,
I think
but great.
Yeah.
For my pick, hold on. We'll talk about Travis Etienne. We'll not get too ahead of ourselves a bit more. I think it's a great pick. As I was just mentioning, 12 points a game last year. That core in Jacksonville is very young, and that includes Travis Etienne. And I think it can work out. I think everything down there can work out. I don't think there's any necessarily you should stay away because they're going to be more of a passing team. I don't think that's the truth at all. I think it's a great pick, and again, I think it'll work out for you for a running back too. I think that's very, very much considered. And in other fantasy apps, because the rankings are very different. I play on 4 separate apps. All 4 of my leagues are on 4 separate apps, which is kind of painful, but it's how it goes. And I think for every single one, Travis Etienne sometimes is in the late 3rd round, and some others are early 6th round. So it's all over the place. And I think you got him at a very justifiable position. But for me, in my 5th round pick, I went with Aaron Jones over in Green Bay. Aaron Jones, of course. He's the guy that I would just say is consistent and is very efficient. This guy, I think, I was looking at some stats from him while we were in the draft, and I think when it comes to yards per carry, he's up there in the league, and he's just, whenever he gets the ball, he's going to get you whatever you need. The only thing that draws me away from Aaron Jones, and what draws a lot of people away from Aaron Jones, is the red zone carries, of course, with A.J. Dillon in that backfield with him. A.J. Dillon, the big back that is just ginormous. He's going to get... Yeah, exactly, right? He's going to get all of those red zone carries, and the touchdowns are going to be low. I think that's the only way around it. But as my running back 2, I think maybe, but it wouldn't surprise me if one of my later picks like Alexander Mattison or Dalvin Cook will jump him midway through the season.
I like that just because there's a new quarterback. It's Jordan Love starting now. They're going to run the ball. They're going to just start it slow, and I really like that. Kind of worried about the red zone carries, and I do think you got lucky because last week I would have taken Ramondre Stevenson over him, but now Ezekiel Elliott's in town, and lucky we did this draft when we did it.
Yeah, me personally being a Packers fan, I love that pick. Back-to-back Packers players, Christian Watson,
I didn't even notice
35, then Aaron Jones, 36. Me personally, I love Christian Watson. He had a great year last year. Not at the start, that dropped catch on the first play against the Vikings made me a little upset. But after that, he had 8 touchdowns in 4 games.
I was just about to mention, crazy touchdown numbers.
Yeah. 3 touchdowns against the Cowboys. I love that. I love seeing us beat the Cowboys. But then heading down, I just wanted to mention one really big thing. I think it was round 11. and there's 16 rounds. And Michael, he decided to pick the 49ers defense. I feel like that was just not a very smart pick.
Yeah, I think I got to agree with you there. Defense this early is very, very surprising. And I'm not going to throw too much shade at Michael because there's a good chance that was an auto draft move. That seems like an auto draft move, but say he was picking, which it wouldn't surprise me if he wasn't, because 49ers defense is insane, right? It's the best in the league. Yeah. I think there's hands down, they're the best in the league. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, even some of their secondary is crazy too. So I think all over the place, the 49ers defense is good, but again, that value. One of my philosophy for defense and fantasy, and I've always stood by this. I think I probably already mentioned it on our podcast last week. Is when it comes to defenses, I like to pick whoever is facing a bad offense. Whoever's facing a team like the Arizona Cardinals without Kyler Murray, or Colts, say the Colts struggle with Anthony Richardson, which, I mean, Colts could be really good, but say they struggle, or I hate to say it, Zion, but maybe the Patriots, whoever's facing the Patriots, I'll pick up. And I'll just go whoever has the easiest. That's why, looking very far down the boards here, I think to my last or second to last pick, that's why I picked the Saints defense. They have the easiest strength of schedule in the league. And on top of that, they're in the NFC South. They're facing the Falcons twice, they're facing the Panthers twice, and they're facing the Bucs twice, which offensively wise, like that division is the worst. Like there's no other way around it. Like that's bad. But back to round 11. Yeah, I'm very shocked that Michael picked 49ers defense, especially when Drake London was right there. And I'm happy because I got Drake London that second pick right after he picked the 49ers defense, which in my opinion is my favorite pick throughout my entire team. I think Drake London, this is his year. I have a lot of faith in Ritter, the Falcons quarterback, and I think he can feed Drake London. London had a great rookie year. He has a lot of potential heading into this season, and I think that he is going to be an absolute dominant player in Atlanta. And again, that division, yeah, you got some pretty good cornerbacks with Marshawn Lattimore, and the Panthers defense is tough, but I love Drake London, and again, getting him in round 11, I love, and hopefully he can be a good cornerstone for my wide receivers.
So, I mean, I don't like the 49ers defense pick either, because, I mean, I would have rather taken Jake London, Christian Kirk, Michael Pittman, but I can't say much because the next round I took Bills defense, and I'm usually the same way where I just take the defense off of waivers that's taking a bad offense, but I really didn't like any of the next picks after that. It's like Evan Ingram, I already took Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift, Cortland Sutton. I just don't like any of those guys, so that's all right pick, but
Yeah, so one last thing I want to mention. Okay, going back to round 10, I looked at Michael's pick because I thought he did something really weird on round 10 also. He picked Justin
I didn't
Tucker
notice
on round
that
10.
either. Oh my
he picked
gosh.
Justin Tucker in round 10.
He went back to back like the last two picks he took in round 10 and 11. Wow. Okay, yeah. I don't think he was auto drafting. There's no way they do him like that. He was filling in lineups or something. But I mean, again, I guess you can just say you got the best player in that position. I mean, I don't know how much that matters for kicker. But sure, that was an okay pick, but round 10, I want to mention that real quick. I got Dalvin Cook, a hot topic over this offseason, released by the Vikings, picked up by the Jets just last week, and man, I love that pick. I think Dalvin Cook, sure, he's going to be in a backfield with Breece Hall, and he's not going to be getting 100, maybe not even 75% of the carries, but I think he's going to be the main guy who's going to get the most carries, more than Breece Hall, and I think he still has a good chance to be like his old self when it comes to his carries and his yardage and all that. So I love that pick, but man, Justin Tucker in that 10th round and then going for 49ers immediately after that. Not sure what Michael's auto draft was thinking.
I like the Dalvin Cook too. Not a lot. I'm a big Breece Hall guy. I think he's good. He got injured last year. I think he will be the starting back, and Dalvin Cook is just the veteran, just teaching him. I mean, I like the pick, but I have Dalvin Cook in another league, and I'm just trying to ship him off for like Pacheco and like someone else. So I took Pacheco in the 10th round in this league.
I love Pacheco too.
I think he's coming off a small injury, but I think he was a 7th round pick out of the Chiefs last year, and he exploded towards the end of the season, kind of.
He runs like he hates the ground. I saw that metaphor, and he literally runs with so much force. It's insane. Like he just like, he looks like he's gonna kill someone. It's crazy, and he's a great receiving back. And when you got Patrick Mahomes and you do any sort of receiving, I mean, you can't avoid that. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah, you're good. I like it because Chiefs are like a air raid team.
Yeah.
And he's going to be their ticket out of a 4th and 2, third and 3.
I like that.
It's a nice, easy way out.
Yeah, and so with that, that'll do it for this ASN Sports Talk episode. Next week you'll see Dawson, Jackson Todd, Braden Folk, and Aiden Wilson again. But with that, I hope you guys have a great night. This is 91.7 WEEM.
You can press the button on there.
You might be.